Alright guys, good evening. So in today's video I want to show us how to make our shorts, and this short we have a zip and a rope. Now I have made series of videos on how to cut this both on the male and the female aspects. Now the reason of this video is to show us the coupling or the sewing processes, right? If you must have watched the end of the videos on the making, either the male section or the female section, the sewing remains the same. Now the where you will have a difference will be at the flap area, and then of course your measurements of your customer. Now I believe you must have seen or watched the previous video I made on the cutting processes of these shorts. Then there's no need to explain again. I have explained on the cutting stage. Now the only thing I need to explain here is the pocketing for the front block. Now this pocketing, I'm using red. Now this pocketing will not have a facing. This is optional. The reason for this is because I want the red to be showing at the pocket edge, so there will be no need to put a pocket facing or whatsoever at the where it should be, right? So I left this area to show red. So this is the flap, of course. So if you are making your own in a different form, and if you want to put a pocket facing, please make sure you put a pocket facing here on your own case, except if you intentionally wanted this red or whatever you use as the pocketing to show, right? So it's because of the nature. Now the measurements of the pocketing is 13 by 13. Then I slanted the depth I used in the short cutting, which was 8 by width of 1.542. I slanted it out. This is what I mean by slanting, so that you understand how all these things are done, right? So you slash one edge, right? Make sure that the right faces of the pocket facings are facing each other before you slash, so that you have it to be left and right. Then we are going to have our rope. Now this rope we are going to use will be the fanciful rope, right? I bought in the market, so you can as well try your best to get any of these ropes at this at your local market. Then this is eyelet opener. This eyelet I will use to perforate a hole on the band to pass the rope to give it that English or a nice finishing. Now this is my eyelet opener, and then this is the back pocket as well. I have folded to my choice. So now we have seen the tools we are going to make use of in sewing. So let's now start the coupling processes. I believe this video will help us to know how best we can do this, and then I will now await your trials and questions if there is any. So like I said, the first thing you will do first is to bring up one of your piece of your trousers, your shorts. Now the parts we are using for our pocket attachment will be the part that has the slant nature. Then you place this area you gummed. Bear in mind you must have gummed. The process of gumming trouser is the same thing with shorts. There's nothing different. Then place it half an inch inwards from here, and then you sew. You're going to sew the angular form, this angular folding, right? You fold the angular form this way, then you sew from here. Then make sure that the half-inch placement is all through to the edge here, half-inch inwards from the bent line. The same way you fold you fix your pocket is the same way for the trousers, the same way you fix for the shorts. There's nothing new or different. So you sew from here. You make sure you must have weaved all these areas. The weaving is to enable you have a nice or a perfect finishing, right? So you sew all through from here. Then when you must have sewn from this point, then all you need to do now is you stitch, and then we are trying to fix the front pocket. This is how you fix your pocket both on shorts and trousers. Then you fold this one inwards this way. Now you can decide to top stitch at the tip. Or you sew half an inch inwards. Now however be the reason or the case you want to do, you can go ahead. Now I'm top stitching at the tip here, right? I'm top stitching here all through from here. Now you can still do this on your regular trousers, right? It doesn't really mean it's only for shorts. You can do this both on your trousers. You can as well top stitch the tip. Then once you must have top stitched this tip, the next thing you will do now is you sew half an inch again, or quarter inch, depending on how you want. Half quarter inch from here, you sew it outrightly from this point, you sew it outrightly to this point. Then from here you end it up perfectly this way, and then we are done with that part. Then you take up your pocketing and place it in this form. Like I said, I wanted the red to show here, that's why I ignored putting the pocket facing, right? So you make sure that the pocketing is equal at the down edge here, must be equal here. Then while you hold the ups area, and then you stitch properly. Please, very very important, don't be in a haste while doing this. So you stitch from here. Now this one will now come out to be 2.5, depending on the notching you did or you made on their trouser marking. From this edge to here will be 2.5 when you measure it. That if you must have notched 2.5 while cutting the shorts or your trouser. Then after that, you hold this area together, and then you stitch at this point. You stitch at this point, stitch on the trouser against the pocket seam, right? Stitch on that edge. Then when you must have stitched on that edge, now you raise the panel of the short up this way. Then you notch only the pocket seam, notch it half an inch this way inwards, half an inch that way inwards. Then you tuck in your hand inside. Then you tuck in your hand inside, you bring it out from here, and then you arrange it properly this way. You're going to sew from the down. I usually like giving it a curvy shape, a curvy sewing at the edge, at the down part, so you can curve it as you want. If you still want to leave it on a block form, there's no problem. Then this your sewing will end at that point your notching stopped. It must end there. It must end there. It must end here. Don't exceed that point. It's very important as well. Then you cut off the excesses if there's any. Of course there should be. Cut it off this way, and then you push it inwards again, inside again. Then you have successfully fixed your front pocket, right? This is how the front pocket will be or will look like. Then having done this now, I will now take my time to do the other one. I will do the second pocket, and then you can still top stitch the edge here if you so wish, but because I'm using black thread, so I don't need to run a black thread here, so I will leave it this way. But if you are using the same color of thread you're sewing, you know, I have more of that color here than red, right? So that's why I picked black as the best option to sew, but red can still make the work. So don't top stitch if you are using another color, but then if you are using some red, you top stitch all through. So this is how your pocket should be. Then this is the left pocket, this left part of the shorts. So we are done with this. So I will do the next one and then show you the outcome. All right, so now I'm done putting the pockets for this, both the right and the left, right? I'm done putting the pockets. So now you hold the two pieces together. You hold the two front shorts together this way. Then you measure out, or you mark from the waistline. You measure 7 inches or 8, depending. If it's for a female, you can mark 6. As is for a male, you mark 7, right? If it's for a female, you can mark 6 for the zip. For male, you mark 7. You mark 7, right? You mark 7. That's if you're putting zip. You mark 7. Then hold the both together, and then you notch half an inch inwards. Please, must be half an inch inwards. Half this way, right? Inwards. Then you pick the left part of the shorts. For the male, you pick the left part of the short. That's the left part that has the left pocket. You pick this one to fix your zip for the male. For the female, you pick the right to fix your zip. Very important as well. I repeat again, for the male, you pick the left while for the female you pick the right. Then now I have picked my left part of my shorts or whatever, if it's trouser, however, but once it's a male you must pick the left part of it. Then you pick the right flap or flap, yeah, you pick it from here, then place it down this way. The straight line will be at this edge, then push it to come up a bit above the trouser short length, and then from that point you notched, that notching point is where you're going to sew from. You can still use your chalk to indicate that point so that you will not exceed that point. So you are going to sew at the edge less than half an inch, right, but not too small, less than half an inch. So you sew 1/4, you sew 1/4, so you sew 1/4 from here, then you cut off your threads. After you must have sewn 1/4, this is how it should appear on your outfit, this way, right? You take your zip, right, you take your zip, face it down, face your zip down, make sure that the edge of this zip is touching the edge of the left part of the short, but it should not exceed or be away. The edge of the zip must touch the edge of the short this way. Then you now calculate or time the stopper to go half an inch below, so by the time you put your band, this stopper will still be available, right? That's for a full grown up, but if it's for kids you can remove the stop or the zip stopper. Then you sew on the right part of the zip this way. You sew on the right part, sew at the tip of the zip, tip to tip, please, very important, tip to tip. Sew from here, tip to tip. Then make sure that the zip is also lapping at the edge of the shorts. Sew tip to tip, sew uprightly, and get to this point. When you must have gotten to this stage, then the next thing you will do now, you cut your threads as well, then hold the zip this way, then bend it with the flap to bend downwards or inwards this way, right? It goes inwards this way. Now when you must have bent it in that direction, then you take the other flap, the second flap, fold into 2 equal parts, fold into 2 equal parts. Now use the folded edge and insert under the zip, right? Then make sure that the 2 flaps are equal here, and then make sure that the zip is lapping or relaxing at the double edge. Then start stitching from this other edge. Make sure that the 2 flaps are equal here. Now you start stitching from here. If you don't make it equal, the difficulties you will have will be one of your bands will be up and one will be down after sewing. So make sure it's very much equal there, and then you stitch from here. Also stitch tip to tip. Then when you must have gotten to this stage, now the next thing you will do is to bring the right part of your shorts or your trouser, as the case may be. Cut your threads very well. Then you bring the right part of your shorts or your trouser. Then from that same point that you notched, you face it down this way. You face it down this way. Make sure that the 2 shorts are equal in length at the edge here. Don't forget that the flap was a bit longer, so don't go and place the short to be at the level of the flap. If you do it this way, you have an issue. One of the bands will be higher, one will be lower while fixing the band. So be mindful of this, please, very important. So make sure that these 2 shorts are equal here, and then you start from the point you notched. You start from this point you notched, the point that the zip was, the flap was fixed originally. Then start sewing from the notching point. So start from that point, and then you stitch properly, right? Stitch properly, and then you sew from down to up. So when you must have sewn that point or that part, you also cut your threads as well. Then this is how it will look like after you must have sewn that. This is how it will look like. Then you hold the two crouch or the two panel together. Hold these two panels together this way. They must be equal here, and then the zip should be facing outwardly, and then open up the flaps this way. Then start from that point, the first flap attachment, that point you stop. Start from that end, and then you spin your needle at that point. Then you arrange it properly first. Arrange it properly first this way, and then you stitch at that end. Stitch properly at that end, and then you now sew a curvy line here. Now, if you are using the manual machines, it's advisable that you double thread there so that you increase the tension or make it to lap properly. You double thread there. But if you're using an industrial, you can tighten your stitch. Now sew once. You can still tighten your stitch on the manual machines and sew once if you don't want to double thread. But convention will tell you to double thread under the leg of a trouser. So you cut your threads as well. Then once you have finished cutting your threads, the next thing you will do now will be, so now you bend the material this way. Then before you sew, it's advisable to go and iron so that everything will be lapping properly. But one of the tricks I will show you is that make sure that you have this folding at this edge this way. It's very important. Don't make it to be flat this way. If you make it to be flat, the zip will not be deep enough, right? So have it to come up in this form. Then you iron properly. I'll iron and come back and show you the results. All right, so now I have ironed the flap. Look at how relaxed it is, right? So now you mark the measurement you use to lock the flap. I think 1.5, 1.3, 1.2, anything you have. Now any measurement you want to use is still your choice, but then you don't have to use a big measurement. Then I'm using 1.3 or 1.4 as the case may be. The smarter it is, the neater it looks, right? So 1.3, 1.4. You must mark, please, and please make sure if you are sewing a white fabric, don't use chalk or color chalk on it. So try to use white chalk as well, so that you will not stain the material with colors of chalk, right? So now at this point you might decide to fold this into two at the one corresponding to the part you will sew. You might decide to fold it into two before you sew, or you might still leave it that way, however be the case, but make sure you must have weaved at that edge, right? So now you start sewing. You might decide to start from the down, but then make sure you remove the one beneath so that you will not end up locking the flap. Or you might just unzip it this way. You might just unzip it this way, and then you start sewing from here. So I think I will fold this so that it will give me a neater result. So you fold this way, then before you start sewing from there. So now you have folded. Make sure that your stitches must be neat enough, right? They must be neat enough and relaxed as well. That's why you must iron first before you start sewing that point. Then while you're sewing, please guide the underneath flap so that it will be relaxed properly. So you guide the underneath one, and then you sew from here, and then make sure that the flap is properly arranged under, right? Make sure it's properly arranged under. Then you sew from here. Then before you end it up, you might decide to lock or return back the flap, the one under you folded. You might decide to return it backwards, so you just zip it again, and then you return it from here. Please make sure you do this neatly. Don't be in a haste. Make sure that the under flap is properly balanced. Then you lock it down this way. That place must be as curvy as possible. must be as curvy as possible, right? Then once you have done that part, you are done with your zip fixing. Look at how the under is, right? Cut your threads as well. Then you can cut off this later on with weaving, right? Then this is the zip, right? We have finished fixing our zip now. So the next thing you will do now is to make sure you now put your darts on the back panel before you start coupling the rest part of the shorts. So for the side panel, for the back panel, you must have known by now that from the straight line, let me check the back and front first. This is the back. So now this is the back part. So from the straight line, from the side seam, you measure 5.5 inches inwards. This is the standard measurement. If you have a smaller person, please reduce the measurement, right? 5.5 or 5. So I'm using 5.5 for my customer. I might use 5. Anyone you want to use 5.5 or 5. You can just put a small notch there so that when you turn it over, you will not forget the point, right? So you can still mark the chalk at that point as well. 5.5, right? Then you hold it this way. From that 5.5, you now measure 3.5 inches deep or down from this edge. 3.5 inches down. That's the depth, right? The depth, 3.5 inches down. Fold from that 5.5 this way, and then you sew half an inch inwards, right? You sew it outrightly. Make sure that your fabric is straight enough. So once you get to that point, you end it up that way. All right, so now I'm done fixing my darts at the both panels of the trousers. Now this is the outcome of my darts, right? You might not really see it, but then there's a dart here. So now you bring your pockets, and then you start sewing. You bring your pockets, then you start sewing. Now this is the back pockets, right? So like I said, since we are making a kind of a fanciful short, so I just decided to use my eyelet opener, and then insert it here. It's just a decision. You mustn't do such, just to add beauty. And then open these points, and then open this point this way. Cut off this, right? And then bring one of your eyelets. And then place it inwards this way, and then use the eyelet itself, hold together, and then you press, right? It just adds beauty to this pocket, nothing else. There's no rope passing here, right? It just to add beauty to this short. Then you also do the same thing here as well. Let's hold it this way, and then you perforate. Please be careful while doing this so that you will not wound yourself. So you open up the stuff this way. You take the eyelet as well, you insert inside, and then you use the eyelet itself, and then you close properly, right? You close properly. So this serves you for the short back pocket eyelet. You mustn't do this, but then if you feel you have it, you can do it. It adds beauty to your outfit. So you also proceed, and then start fixing your pockets at the corresponding panels. So you pick up one panel, the back center panel, and then place it half an inch, place it to the other end, that place your dart ended, half an inch on top or at the tip, however you want to do it. Place it there, and then you sew. So you sew all around. You might decide to thread it first before fixing. There's still no problem. So you thread from here. You thread from here, and then you also make sure that the pockets are balanced or is properly relaxed. You thread from there, and then you make sure that all these things are properly fixed and taken care of. You thread from here as well. So now you also thread it out at this point. So now you have finished fixing this. So you also do the same thing on the other panel of the shorts. You also do the same thing on the other panel of the shorts. Make sure everything is properly fixed. This is how the back is, right? So let's do the other panel of the short as well. Then the place that the dart ended is also where you're gonna place your pockets, half an inch on top or at that tip. However you wanna do it is solely your choice. So from here, you hold it properly. And then you sew. Please make sure that anything you are doing, you must take your time while doing it. Right? So you thread it from here. Thread from here. You stitch properly, right? Then after you must have done this now, the next thing you will do is to cut off your threads as well. Now the next, you take your shorts, the front panel, and then bring up the corresponding side panels, hold it evenly this way, and then you join with half an inch. Very, very important as well. Half an inch. Now one of the tricks is that you must sew and get to this tip here. You must sew and get to this tip here, whereby your pockets will be sewn a bit, something of this nature, right? So that you have a neat finishing at this edge. So you hold it together, use your hand to target that point. This is why sewing, make sure you cross-check the length, because one tends to be shorter if you don't hold it evenly. So you're going to be stretching the one beneath or the one under. So once you get to that point, you can stitch to make sure the pressure that will be given on that edge will be properly taken care of. So take your time while doing this. Then you also make sure it's properly relaxed. Use half an inch to close the sides. It's very, very important as well. Half an inch to close the sides. So once you have finished closing one side, you also cut off your threads, and then let's look at what we have sewn. So this is the result, right? This is the result. You see how beautiful the red is giving our shorts at the pocket area. So this red is adding beauty to the outfit already, right? So look at how the pocket edge here is properly finished, right? So you also do this on the other part of the shorts. So now I'm done joining the panels of the shorts, both the front and the back, right? I'm done with it. So now let's close the waist. So you hold the two together this way. Bear in mind that what I'm showing you now can as well be used in your both your trousers and your shorts as well, right? So don't assume it's only shorts. This same method of sewing can still be used on your shorts, on your trousers as well. So now let's join the, let's close the waist. Now the waist closing we have, I think we use them 37 to cut our waist. So you measure from the folded edge here, you divide 37 by 2, right? 36, sorry, was what we used, right? 36, 37 was what we used. So 34 is 17, 35 is 17.5, 36 is 18, right? 37 and a half will be, 37 will be 18.25. So you mark here 18.25 somewhere here, right? So whatever your waist is, divide by 2 at this point because it's on fold. You understand? Not 4 again. Divide by 2 because you have the 2 panels on one side, 2 panels on one side. So you divide by 2. You have it at this point, and then this is roughly half an inch or thereabout. So you now take the half an inch to lock your waist. Now bear in mind that this is not a jointed band. This is just going to be a straight-on band. So you lock from your waist, you lock from here all through, and then while sewing, you hold the crouch while you sew down. So you retain the same half an inch or 1 inch and go down. But at this point, you can as well apply your hip at this area. You can divide your hip by 2 as well, and then you apply from here. So now what you just have to do is you make sure you continue locking outrightly, and then you have finished locking your back panel of your shorts, and then you cut your threads, right? And then you bring it out this way. In most cases, you might decide to lock the leg and even lock the leg here before you even put the band. But then let me put the band first before I lock the inseam inner leg, right? So let's fix the band. So in this band fixing, this helps you for your both your Ankara method, your rope trouser method. However you want to do it, it's the same folding. Don't mind the gum stay I added here. Now in fixing this band, you have to open your zip at this point. Then before you open your zip, please make sure that the 2 panels of the shorts are equal here. If one is shorter or short here, you can trim it a bit so that to correspond with the length. So the 2 panels are equal. So you will zip down this way, and then you push the band half an inch away before you start sewing. So before we start fixing this band, let me mark the point I'm pushing away. I'm pushing from here off. So don't forget that this band, we have an opening here that an eyelet will come out from. So you now decide at what point do you want that opening to come. So let me just say at the edge here, somewhere here is where the eyelets should be. So it's easier now to open your eyelet now than when you must have joined your band. The eyelet will not be able to enter all too deep to this point. So I'm opening from here. I will try my best to push it in to the center fold of this band, the one that will be appearing outside. I will tuck it in, push it to the center of the band, and then I will create an opening there. So I will create an opening there. Then I will take one of my eyelets and then I will make sure that I tuck in this inwards this way.